Hello, we're continuing with the laws of Pesach. We're on Taf Ayin Beis Dalid 472-4 in the Mishnah Berurah. And we're talking about leaning at the Seder. At the Seder, when we eat the matzah and we drink the wine, we lean on our left side, and the reason is to show that we're free people. Only free people lean when they eat. Back in the ancient times, you see the pictures, like we mentioned, of the aristocrats lying on their left side and eating their meals. Picture with the grapes. Their servant feeding them the grapes while they're leaning. Okay, so Dalit. Isha ena tzricha heseba. A woman does not need to lean when she eats. Elaim kein hi chashuva, unless she is an important woman. Says the Ramah, v'chol hanashim shalano mikri chashuvas. All of our women are called important. So according to this, it would sound that women do have to lean on Passover. Ach lo nagu lehesev ki samcho al divrei Ravya because of the bizman hazeh ein tzarich lehesev. However, women nowadays rely on the opinion of the Ravya. The Ravya holds that nowadays nobody should lean when they eat on Pesach, on the Seder. The reason is because aristocrats no longer eat that way. Free people, important people, they no longer eat when they're leaning. It doesn't show freedom by eating when you lean. That's the opinion of the Ravya. Now, while we don't rely on the Ravya necessarily, we still lean on Pesach. Women, they rely on this opinion because of those the combination of factors. So the custom is that women do not lean at the Seder on Pesach. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Eina tzricha haseba. The stam isha ein darcha lahesev v'shum pam. Women don't lean. The bezman hazeh ein sarach lahesev. Taimo keven de ein regilus bar tzena b'shari mos hashana lahesev el yoshev kedarko. The Mishnah Berurah just says what we summarized. That nowadays the Ravya holds nobody leans, right? It's not, you don't see you don't go to a fancy restaurant in the city and see all the wealthy people sitting there leaning on a pillow eating their steak. Aval, okay, aval. But we said that even though the Ravya holds that, that's not how we paskin. But women still do not lean. So aval, someone who's a mourner, toch yud beis chodesh shel avi v'imo, within 12 months of the passing of his father and mother, toch shloshim al shar kroivim, or within 30 days of another relative, kagon shelo noig shiva lifnei regel, in a case where they didn't have shiva before the holiday. Af shehu chayev b'aseva, even though they really need to lean, and a mourner still needs to lean and do a seva. Mikol makam hanachon shelo yesev al mita kvuda uklula. He says that even though a mourner is still required to lean during Pesach, during the Seder, nevertheless, he shouldn't do it in a super fancy way. He shouldn't do it on like a comfy, ornate bed. Just do it with a little bit of a change. Use a regular bed with a little pillow, or a mourner can lean on the knees of his friend. Okay, the kittel. Nagu shlalilvash, a mourner, the Mishnah Berurah says, does not wear a kittel at the Seder. Umikol makom halayvish in meichem biyado. However, if a mourner wears a kittel, then do not protest. Okay, let's start Sif Hey. Other laws of leaning. Ben etzel aviv, a father who's having the Seder with his son, who's having the Seder with his father. Tzarech haseba, needs to lean. We'll soon see why one might think a son sitting with his father would not lean. Afilahu rabba muvak, even if his father is his main Torah Rebbe, main Torah teacher, he still leans in front of his father. Talmud lifnei rabbo, a student in front of his Rebbe, in front of his Torah teacher, eino tzarech haseba, he does not need to lean. Afilu eino rabba muvak, even if it's not his main Torah teacher. There's such a thing in halacha called a rabba muvak. That's where you learn most of your wisdom from, most of your Torah wisdom from. So he says that this law of not leaning in front of a Rebbe, in front of a Torah teacher, does not only apply to your main Torah teacher, where you learned most of your Torah wisdom from, but even a regular Torah teacher that you learned other things from. Elaim kein yitin lo rabba rishos. However, if the Rebbe gives his student permission, then he could lean. A Torah scholar who is totally set apart in his generation, like the Gadol Hador, totally head and shoulders above everybody else in his Torah knowledge. Even if you never learnt anything from him, he's considered your Rebbe, considered your Torah teacher, and you don't need to lean. Now all of these halachas apply when you are sitting at one table. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah here. So tzarech haseva. So now, why would one think that if he's having the Seder with his father, that he would not lean? Says the Mishnah Berurah, "De'afta ben chai b'chvado v'moro." He says a son is required to honor and fear his father. So when you fear somebody, you wouldn't lean in front of him. So maybe a son shouldn't lean in front of his father because he's commanded to fear his father and honor his father. It's not respectful. It's not fearing him. V'kol shechenim hu rabo. All the more so if it's his rebbe, his Torah teacher. Mikol makom. Nevertheless, tzarech haseva demistama av machal b'neh. He says for sure we can assume a father forgives any requirement of honor at the Seder and wants his son to lean, so the son can lean in front of the father. That's totally fine. Eino tzarech haseva. We said, but a student does not lean in front of his Torah teacher. Mishum de bereisha amar tzarech nakad hacha in tzarech. Aval be'emes isur nami ikal hezeh b'fanav demora rabo kemar shemayim. So now, even though he said the word tzarech, that you don't have to lean in front of your Torah teacher, it's actually a prohibition, because since one is also required to fear his rebbe, fear his Torah teacher, and in fact, one is supposed to fear the teacher, his teacher of Torah, like he fears heaven. So since that level of fear that's required, a certain awe, not like fear of being petrified and scared, but a certain awe and awesomeness, therefore he is not allowed to lean, unless he gives him permission. Yitin lo rabba rishus. Hainu shir shehu beferish. He explicitly gives his student permission. V'az mahani afilu barabba muvik. So then even if it's his main Torah teacher tells him, hey, you could lean, no problem, then he's allowed to lean. Al shulchan b'fnei atzmo, but if they're on separate tables, we said he doesn't need to ask permission. Afal pishahu b'fnei rabba, even though he's in front of his rebbe, v'taimo kevan dehu b'shulchan b'fnei atzmo, since he's on a separate table, ein haseba shalo zilzal l'chvod rav. His leaning is not a denigration, is not denigrating the honor of the rabbi, because he's at a separate table. The Pri Chadash argues, he says, the Pri Chadash says, what do you mean? Who cares that you're at a different table? As long as you're in front of your rebbe, you shouldn't lean. But the Pri Megadim says, in this case, even if you're at separate tables from your rebbe, you should still ask him permission to lean. Okay, so just to summarize, we did two halachas today. We say that women nowadays, they do not lean because they rely on the opinion of the Ravya. We said that a mourner does lean, but a mourner does not wear a kittel. Then we said a son, when he's having the Seder with his father, he does lean, but a student does not lean when his rebbe is at the Seder unless he gets explicit permission from him. And included in a rebbe is a Torah scholar who is totally set apart and is a great, great Torah scholar, head and shoulders above everybody else. That is also considered a person's rebbe that one would need to ask permission. Have a great day.